Welcome to the CEN Show, a platform where we learn from the world community. I'm your host, Rashaki Maskani, and tonight on the panel we have Professor Rahh, Ernest McBride Jr., Brother Hembrick, Brother Mshinda, and Brother Rahh. Our guest this evening is Attorney Larry Fields. Attorney Larry Fields is a member of the Level Set, and the Level Set is one of my favorite podcasts where the comrades on that show has very good commentary that I enjoy. So I have plenty of shorts on our YouTube channel of the Level Set, and then also I have a few of the shows, but they have their own YouTube channel, and you can find the Level Set on YouTube. Tonight, our topic is Dr. Martin Luther King and self-reliance, right in line with Black History Month. So, Brother Larry, I'm glad that you can make it this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to you so you can present your information, and then we can have a discussion.
First of all, let me thank you all for having me. It is indeed an honor and a challenge, and the information that I want to share today is information that we are workshopping. So I am not wedded to anything but solutions. So as you listen to me, understand that I am not attempting to present the gospel to you. And there are always three cases. As a litigator, I know there's a case that you try, the case that you actually wish you would have tried, and the case you had intended to try. And so that's typically the way presentations go. But I, would like to offer a few things for thought tonight, and I would love to have the feedback and the community hashing of these ideas, because the marketplace of ideas, of course, is where the richness ensues. And I'm going to call a slight audible to the topic because as I got involved in preparing for tonight, the focus was more along the lines of the intent of what Dr. Martin Luther King did instead of his information as a whole. The A lot of what he did with just incredible foresight. And there's been data presented now to produce and to sustain, which is a topic that has been the title of a book, Weathering and so forth. But what essentially it states, the premise of it and the foundation is that racism is not just an economic and social injustice, but a public health crisis that measurably shortens Black life expectancy in America. Chronic exposure to unemployment, underemployment, income insecurity, housing insecurity, capital exclusion, uh, redlining, and the like actually accelerate biological aging, increasing, as I heard one of the panelists mention earlier, referencing his brother, I believe, hypertension, maternal morbidity rates, premature death. And one thing that I think we have failed to do is to realize that economic self-determination as a result of these things is not just a function of mere policy, but it is a means of survival that we all need to entertain. This isn't new. What we really need to do, part and parcel of that, is to remember not to, not just in the mental sense, as in focusing on something that happened in the past, but congregate together in terms of reassembling as a group. It is more important now to operate from the predicate that the status quo is set up merely for our servitude, complete domination of Black people. It is rigged, and anti-Blackness is permanently baked into the Americas. Anti-Blackness has never gone out of vogue since we've been over here. We need to come to grips with that, and we need to operate from that predicate, understanding that that's the issue. And so what becomes the goal is collective self-reliance, institutional self-reliance. And, in short, we've got to remember, this is not a new concept in our community, because we can go back to 1852, where Martin Delany, one of our, ancestors now, but forebears, stated that no free people can depend upon another for their subsistence. We can go to 1857, where Moses Dickinson stated, freedom without preparation is a dangerous illusion. In 1895, Booker T. Washington stated there must be a race economics and self-reliance. 1923, Marcus Garvey told us a race without authority and power is a race without respect. Carter G. Woodson in 1933 told us that history shows that those who depend solely on others for rights, privileges, and benefits never gain more than what they started with. We can go to King in 1967 at the March on Washington. Well, I'm not at the March on Washington, but I want to reiterate that the March on Washington was not for harmony. The March on Washington was to go and get our check. That's what that was about. We've allowed him to be sanitized, but he stated in no ambiguity that we must strengthen our economic base, pool our resources, and realize what we can do for ourselves. Elijah Muhammad, back in 1965, stated that we must unite ourselves and build for ourselves, or we will remain dependent and powerless. Then we were reminded in 1998 by Dr. Amos Wilson. Power is the ability to define reality and to have others respect it. And he, to the day he died, continued to remind us that if it gets down to white people feeding their children and feeding yours, your children are going to starve every time. We have got to look at this thing for what it is. It's never been set up for our survival. We have done a phenomenal job. In fact, we have taken the poverty rate from, the Black poverty rate in the 1960s, which was 50%, to 20% in the face of the most rigid racism that has been known to be operated on the face of the planet. But where are we now? We still are disenfranchised here. And Black unemployment in the United States is 7.5% on a good day. White unemployment is 3.8%. Black women are unemployed. Black women unemployment rate is 7.3% in 2026. Just a year ago, it was 5.4%. 1 year ago, it's up. And so I don't have to remind any of you all, because you all know that over 350,000 Black women were summarily discharged from their jobs this year. And I must add that I'm an employment discrimination attorney and civil rights. So these are things that I live with. This is my daily experience. Black men, our unemployment rate is 7.2%, as opposed to white men with, that's 3.34%. We still have at least 17% of our individuals, of Black folks throughout the Americas, living beneath the poverty line of $15,000 a year. 17% of our entire race. 13.5% on a good day are underemployed. So where do we turn for answers to this? Traditionally, you would be able to rely on the legislature and the courts. In the great state of Missouri, as good as our governor and attorney general felt, they have now launched discrimination suits against IBM and Starbucks because they are giving what they have loosely titled preferential treatment to Black folks at the detriment of white folks. And if you all have been keeping up with the news today, if you've had time, because I know you all are busy, you'll find that Nike is now in the crosshairs of the federal government and being investigated because they supposedly are discriminating against white individuals. It's been barely a year since your current president rescinded Executive Order 11246, which is a 1965 directive that had been um, uh, issued to provide affirmative action for federal contracts. So that's been eliminated. And as a result of that directive, back in 2023, black black federal contractors won a whopping 1.61% of the federal contracts in the first place. So, I mean, even with the directive, we had 1.61% of the contracts, but that somehow went down in 2024 to 1.5%. So, even in quote unquote good times and not the harsh times, we are still being marginalized and not having anywhere close to our fair share of this thing that we are so wedded to. We have over relied on the vote and the franchise of the vote. You have to do that and some. But, one of the fights that we are going to have is to make ourselves a nation inside of a nation. They are treating us like a third world country. They have grouped us like a third world country. We've got to do a better job of self-reliance and providing for ourselves. And one method that we know that has been successful is to almost use our churches as venture capitalists. The church I grew up in, actually, my first job was in a candy store at 9 years old. My second job was at a car wash at 12 years old. Um, yeah, I was able to rent tuxedos from a tuxedo place, buy our groceries at a small grocery place, get homemade remedies and so forth. All of those things were funded. All of those entities were funded by uh, a small little church on the south side of St. Louis that had less than 1,000 members. And the men and women there that were members of that church, um, uh, some worked there. The managers that worked in those places made good livings, and they got incredible experience and have gone on to do incredible things. So, I mean, it is important that we hold our institutions in our communities accountable, and we've got to partner with these institutions. We have Black colleges and universities that are capable of producing the same sort of results. We have got to, in my opinion, abandon integrationist politics. The individuals that we're sending to represent us, that are going to be a part of the American experience, are doing harm to us. They need to operate as if we are a separate segment and bring resources back to us to build. They need to effectuate laws that put us in a place to build. And we need to do all of these things at the same time, studying the military sciences and protecting what we build. It's not as if we have not built before. It is not. We've built before, but with the aid or the passiveness of the government, these things have been eroded and torn down, oftentimes violently. So we have got to hold individuals accountable. And there are some things that we can do immediately today that effectuate this. We need to stop telling our children that we want them to have the same education as a white child sitting next to them. I have to agree with Dr. Amos Wilson that intelligence is the ability to solve your own problems. A black child's problems and a white child's problems are two totally different things. And if in fact, if in fact we are in school together, we need to have problem-based education for our children. What that looks like is going to be varied. There is no such thing as a universal education, period. Absolutely not. I don't know what a pregnant camel is, what a pregnant camel looks like, but someone does. And we have very, very unique problems. And we have got to do a better job of identifying that. And we've got to do a better job of identifying what a quality education is. Because if you look at the data, the more business degrees that are issued to Black people, the less businesses that are run in our community by us are owned by us. So we're going to school to solve the problems of someone else. And we're taking our talents to help other folks, and we're leaving our communities in the wake. And community is not just a geographical term. It's not. It is a Pan-Africanist term, to say the least. So in short, we need to take our corners back. This is not just an economic issue. As I stated earlier, this is leading to premature death and every morbidity that runs the gamut. And we can all do something today to mitigate those issues. And I'm open for your feedback at this point.
Okay, thanks for that. Very interesting. Ernest?
Well, first of all, I'd like to tell Brother Ahi we broke a heat record today. It was like 85.
Uh-oh, messing with our heat.
So, so anyway, but I see what Dr. Fields is saying because I can remember back my own, like employment history. I started out shining shoes, and then I went from there to the car washes, working at the local car washes, and in between that, I mowed lawns on the weekend, and then I came on up to a bus boy at the drive-in. There used to have the drive-in restaurants, so I got jobs there, and then I did some janitor work and stuff after that. But in the meantime, I went to Long Beach City to study electronics, right? So I had an AA degree, and then the Army come drafted me. So I missed out on a football scholarship at Cal State Long Beach, and then I hired in with National Cash Register. And like he says, when it come time for promotion, they're telling you, you're doing great and all that, but we got to wait a little more time. So I left there and went to the shipyard for civil service. So I get at the shipyard, and the guy, they had a journeyman electronic mechanics jobs open, but guys, need to hire you as limited because you don't have the experience of some of these guys you working with, been in the Navy 20 years, and you up against them, Say, but I like that degree you got, so I'm gonna hire you as a limited. So every training program they come up with, I entered in the program, but I was already overqualified to even be in the program. But whenever I got any kind of promotions, because they were preventing blacks from being promoted, so well, you have to go out on a ship and learn how to do shipboard systems before you can become a full mechanic. And this is something that the foremen and stuff rigged up between themselves. So what happened, a friend of mine, we played softball night league in the city together. He was in the sonar section. I was in radar. So he filed a federal lawsuit against them. Boy, and then they got scared and then they was looking around. And I happened to walk by the supervisor's desk one day and he said, Ernie, did you put in for mechanic? And I said, yeah, I've been on the list. It was probably number 3 on the list, right? And he says, well, you need to put in because I think you're doing good work and all that. He's the one guy that tried to get me put out of the program. And it was 9 of us in the program. And they was going to kick me out of it. But the instructor said, no, because he has to approve it. So this general foreman, yeah, we kicking him out. And the instructor said, no, you're not. Because he's the best student I got in there. And so you're not kicking him out of nothing. So they started interviewing all, because the instructor interviewed all the guys that work with me. And he said, yeah, man, they, everything Ernie do, they try to shoot it down. And then the same foreman tried to kick me out of it. Said, I want you to, about the 3rd day I was, about a week I was in there. So I want you to go out to Pier 1. They got the Valley Forge, this aircraft carrier, and take these 4 other guys with you and you be in charge and want you to align these radar indicators. I come to find out all those guys was journeyman mechanic. I'm the limited and he put me in charge. You know, and I thought so. So every
And that's
the guy,
well, I mean, that's because the talent was there, and
yeah,
they knew that, and that's why it's so very, very important that we do a much better job of number one, telling our students from a very early age that number one, there's nothing wrong with having a transactional relationship in that situation. But ultimately, we're going to have some things that we are self-reliant on. Now, I didn't get into the areas in which that we should hold the monopoly on a number of industries in this country.
yeah,
You shouldn't be able to find a Division I basketball player without going through us.
right.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to sign a singer without going through us. You shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to find, English teachers as well as we know English. I mean, there are certain things that we have the power to do today, and we don't. And so that's where the self-reliance come in. But our mindset, I mean, I hate to keep going back to Dr. Wilson, but he is right. We have to literally be crazy to be the people that we are and to be totally dominated the way we are. And we are. I mean, the vast majority of us are doing the exact same thing that our enslaved ancestors did. We're working for white people. And there's no shame in that. But I mean, that should not be the goal. And we should not continue to perpetuate that. Thank you for those comments, brother.
All right, Brother Mshinda.
All right, I'm here. Uh, Appreciate, Brother Fields coming on tonight. Uh, Great topic, great discussion. I had that, I thought to that point, well, the points he's been making tonight. Like yesterday, I was thinking about, how we, um, and when I say we, it's society, it's Black people, look at what we're striving for, what are our desires and our goals, and what are we, what's our end game, that kind of thing. And working in education, and seeing folks show up, at the school to try to get some kind of training in order to, go to work somewhere and, support their family. So basically it's a syndrome, so it's been perpetuated, been passed on, and so I understand we have to, break that cycle, but it's, you know, because when I was younger, when I understood at a very young age about white flight, because you have this integration concept, and togetherness with other people and showing love with other people and wanting to be God's children, so we taught all these things, or we're exposed to these things or indoctrinated under these things. And so realize it's subliminal seduction. We're under the influence until you recognize, and then you try to, peel those layers off you and try to, go toward the light versus, you know, dealing with the illusion of, like Brother Hembrick said, illusion of inclusion. you know, uh, but the white flight told me it's like they don't, they don't want to be around us, And then when from a young perspective, you're saying, so from my perspective, it's like, you know, and my question was like, why do we want to, do this? Why do we want to be, with them, or why do we want to depend on them, at a young age? So it's just a question that I had, this, sociological thing of white flight really made me realize that, what, they're not trying to hear what we're saying. They're not trying to be around us. So we have to have our own independence, So, but again, just like the influence of social media, like a vacuum is, everybody has something to say, and everybody has, their own platforms that they go to. I'm talking about the masses, to where everybody's competing for everybody's time and their mindsets and things like that. So, which it makes it harder to bring everybody back in to try to, everybody come to the table and let's try to figure this out. I mean, we have people on this call tonight, most of us probably are, older, been through life experiences and things like that and understand a lot of these things. But these generations that's matriculating through life right now, back to back, and what I find is it's wow. It's they're not, a lot of them aren't trying to be included. A lot of them are not even, it's more or less they want to be. It's a lot of youngsters want to be independent and do their own thing, but they're competing with the other structure that's been, built before them. And so with that is the institutional racism, the weapon, law enforcement, activities that are against us, uh, like you say, banking, redlining, all of those things are still in play, you know. So what I'm saying is when they control the infrastructure, the banks and all of that, you know, it kind of, and so what happens is these youngsters who try to, get a job or try to, walk in that direction. But what happens is, in their young lives, a lot of them are faced with law enforcement. A lot of us are incarcerated, in jail because, and it's double standards, of course. I mean, they lock us up, give us time for things that they, might give somebody probation or give them another chance. And even when you've been to the penitentiary and you get out, white folks, you know, they get more of a chance. Like you talking about these statistics like unemployment, 7% versus 3 point something percent. Well, what's the percentage of white folks, being able to get fully gainfully employed once they've had felonies and went to the prison for the same crimes or even lesser crimes,
I can tell you,
And so
I can tell you that a white felon has a better chance at a job than a black with a master's degree and no record.
that's
I've
what,
done
see,
research on that. And with
right.
respect to, let's talk about that white flight issue that you mentioned. Those are institutional formations. White flight is a direct product of banks and of the FHA and like agencies breaking up white, what were formerly white neighborhoods and sending them out to the suburbs. The suburbs were the creation of the government because they gave, low interest loans. They constructed the egress and ingress and egress. They provided monies for schools. Governments made those things out. Redlining kept Black folks from being able to go to those suburbs. And redlining created any mixed neighborhoods. So once a Black family moved in, you would then have the real estate vultures come in and block and what they call block bus, um, telling white folks that the value of the neighborhood was about to go down because you have Black people that are moving in, and they would buy the homes from the white people for pennies. Then the Black folks could not be approved for these loans. So what would happen is they would enter into land contracts with that were egregious in terms of interest and the prices of the homes because the individuals, the scavengers that bought those homes would then sell them under land contracts. And if you miss one payment in the land contract, they would foreclose on the home. So it has wiped away generations of wealth, generations of wealth. We need to understand that the system produces the circumstances that it wants. There's no there's absolutely no reason why we're in the situation we're in, and without the essential willingness of the system to have us in this situation.
All right. Brother Mshinda, are you done?
No, I'm here. I'm listening, and I appreciate that. That breakdown, and it has to be heard. But again, like I said, it's a. I mean, we're all still in the struggle, But like I say, it's a. I mean, really, it's a real day basis. I have meaningful conversations and many lectures with individuals and just it's almost like a statistical analysis. I have a range of I've polled and surveyed a lot of mindsets and I mean hundreds and hundreds of mindsets in recent times, and it's like wow. And again, it's a variation of where they're at, where people are at. I'm saying at the end of the day, I mean, I don't call them like stupid or anything, or I don't, it's like I say, it's kind of like when you fall asleep at the wheel. You kind of miss out. You can, you kind of when you're seduced by, when you're mesmerized by, when you're, you know, afflicted by.
It's a constant brainwash.
Yeah, and
And
it's layers and layers.
it's intentional. This is
Yes,
this is the system does not sleep, and it produces the outcomes that it seeks.
Hmm.
and I think it's been like you say, they know the outcome. It's tested, and they know, that it's, but it's kind of like uh, Pavlov's dog. Like they know that if you ring the bell, he's gonna saliva. That kind of thing. Using that just as an example. I don't
But but
subscribe to a
but
lot of
what we
stuff.
fail to realize is that we the dog.
Right.
We
That's right.
identify with the bell and the experimenter, but we the dog. Dr.
Right.
Alexander can talk about that a little later. Thanks for joining.
Uh,
But we are the dog.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All about that training, mental training. Brother Ahi?
It seems that in order for us to get to the point where we want to determine our own destiny, we may have to be forced to. Like when I was growing up, we didn't have access to a lot of things, services in our communities from the other folks. Everything I walked past on my way to school or in my neighborhood was black owned, with the exception of the pharmacy and the liquor store. But everything else, from the plumbing and electrical shops to the gas stations and mechanics, and we even had little markets, was black owned. Uh, you were talking about the systemic stuff. My daddy came out on the GI Bill, was able to uh, uh, get an education, but we couldn't move anywhere. Like you said, it was redlining, and he didn't have access to all the opportunities that military guys and veterans had. Um, yeah, it was systemic. He was a supervisor, and some of his employees had a better lifestyle than he did. And so, yeah, we're up against it. And we're not the only ones. I went over to West Africa, and you walk into the stores, and the Indians own the stores. I mean, own the stores and the and some of the hotels, and they're spending their gas stations. The same thing here in Detroit.
And China
Now
in some
this is
parts,
reverted.
and China in some parts. And
Yeah,
and if you're in Detroit, have you read Plundered?
I have not read Plundered.
I would strongly recommend that.
Let me
It
write that
is it does an analysis on the foreclosure and the it's for years when that real estate in in Detroit was up for grabs. I always thought that that was as a result of predatory lending, but that's as a result of predatory taxing from Wayne County.
Can you break that down? What is red plumbing? Because I don't know what that is.
I'm sorry. What is what?
His state. He named it. I don't understand. But red
Plundered.
Plundered is the book, but
plunder.
redlining is essentially a line in which the banks draw a map in which they won't loan money to black people in. Nor will they inside of that, they won't loan money for white people to move inside. It typically, so what they were trying to do, what they did throughout this country was keep the home ownership segregated, which coincidentally lowered the value of the homes in the black neighborhoods. That book, Plunder, follows the lives of two individuals that both started at at one of the plants, at one of the Ford plants, a notoriously tough Ford plant around the same time. Both had manufacturing jobs. One was an Italian, one was a black man. And the book follows each of them.
Oh, I
And
heard about that.
and it shows you how over time wealth is made for the white and how wealth was deprived for the black individuals. Papa Brown versus Papa Bucci. And that is a problem, a scenario that plays out around this country. It's baked in. But so I mean that is just the latest documented. I shouldn't say latest because we get documentation on the government attacking us every day, as with this Nike lawsuit or investigation by the federal government today is the latest rendition of it. But that is, just discriminatory racist policies that have been placed in order to deprive blacks of wealth and dignity and any sort of self-determinacy. So we continue to believe that the playing field is level and fair, and that we could essentially work hard and enjoy a wonderful life. But that's not the case. As the brother stated earlier, he was walking on water and still was not given the title that he should have been, which with the company pay and so forth. So those are, I mean, these are just battles that we're going to have to face up to and realize that the status quo is war against us for them.
I want to point out something, and I don't know if there would be if people can get what I'm saying, and maybe they can, maybe they can't, and hopefully people now. When we constantly, it's like chasing somebody that don't want you. When we're constantly chasing and going after things, I'm talking about as people, and it's almost it's equating to what Professor Rahh always say: don't let your oppressor be your teacher. But we're allowing that, and I'm gonna bring a solution to what I'm about to say. We're allowing things to happen to us because we want to be like them. And it's been said over and over again here. If we possess their mentality, what do that make us when they're oppressing us, when they don't want to be around us? So it doesn't make logical sense to want to be like something that don't want you. It's like it's almost like the mind is so gone that you want to be it's like a battered woman or a battered man in a relationship.
That is our
It just
relationship.
doesn't make sense. So what I was thinking about, and it's just not my thoughts. The kryptonite to the system that we're in is our non-participation. That's one of the solutions. If we don't participate in the culture that's being given to us, it helps break down the strength of that system. The system is in place, and anytime we participate, we keep feeding into it. But when we
And
don't participate,
validating it.
that's right. When we don't participate, it slowly breaks it down, and we're fully engulfed. Even some of us around here, we're engulfed because we're here and we're in the structure. But when we stop participating, and that's all I want to say about that. But I'm gonna move on. Uh, Lynda,
Oh, yes, I'm here. I'm just listening and learning because this is so interesting. So y'all keep it rolling, please. Keep going. I
no,
want to hear.
no comment.
Oh, no, no comment at this time, but I will have, if I have a question, I will ask.
Okay, all right, Dr. Charles.
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Good evening, Doc.
Greetings.
Attorney Fields, can you expound a bit on your thoughts about how the Black church could be used? And I'm asking that um, because data suggests that 70% of Black churches have 100 or fewer people. So, in what way could that, could the Black church as, I don't know if it's as an entity or what have you, I don't know how quite to describe it, but in what way do you see the Black church as being, helpful in an economic sense?
That's a great question. Thanks for joining, Doc. And part of what I have done over my career is known as ecclesiastic law. That's church law, essentially, ecclesiastic law. One of the first cases I had out of law school um, involved getting a group of churches, and there was a couple of churches in Detroit, out of bond deals. There was this little slick majority, I shouldn't say majority, I'll say white firm out of Terre Haute, Indiana, going around the country writing bonds in the names of churches, selling them on a designated market. Once they write these bonds, Of course, the churches couldn't afford them. They default on them. I went around the country for a long time, getting them out of the bond deals and traditional funds and, into traditional mortgages for the churches. What I have done and what I'm doing now, I have a client now that I'm finishing up the the formal engagement for, that I fully intend on help getting a credit union, um, establishing a training facility. They already have the space. Um, Establishing a retail store, establishing a grocery store, and whatever else we can envision. That church has less than 1,000 members, but they are a highly motivated Orthodox Baptist church, and they can leverage what they have where they are to help that community. Is this going to have something on a global scale? Maybe not, but we're going to be able to do those things. Smaller churches may not be able to do that, but the information that they provide to their parishioners is more important than anything else. If you're providing information to your parishioners that's true, you're not going to tell them to tolerate this foolishness and to essentially impute the system's harshities on themselves. And that's what's going on. We have this mindset and notion of rugged individualism, when individuals can never beat institutions. And we, you know, uh, tend to blame the victim over and over and over again. So the churches can start there. They can all start by telling, the children what it is, in fact, we need to do as we sit down to be educated. They can all provide quality information in that regard. They can all push their parishioners in the right direction for services. Yeah, and so I mean, there are a whole lot of things that you can do, no matter the size of your church, and of course the breadth of your and tentacles of your influence is based in large part by your desire and your ability to do so based on the membership that you have.
Yeah, that sounds good. I know that in previous conversations I had, I always mention that people in the church pool their resources and do something financial to do better than what they're doing. So it's right in line with what you're saying. So I think that's brilliant. You know, you could believe in what you believe in, but other than that, you could also do things that's non-spiritual, that's going to sustain you. So that's excellent. Brother Hembrick.
Sir, evening everyone.
Good evening.
Appreciate you, Brother Fields.
Thank you.
I agree with a lot that's been said this evening. I just want to bring up a point, phrase that was coined by Dr. Bobby Wright, a concept called menticide, where the intent is to destroy the mind of a people with the intent of destroying that group of people. I also like to bring up that comment you made earlier about power is the ability to identify reality. And everyone on the panel knows where I stand on the political thing about I don't suffer from the illusion of inclusion. But one thing that hampers us, the things that we do, like Brother Rashidi was talking about, we constantly commit cultural genocide with ourselves by practicing and studying and believing, what was given to us by the oppressor. Okay. We need to get back to, like someone mentioned, teaching our own. I was reading in a book called The Pale Fox, how the Dogon would take a group of young men, maybe 10 to 12 of them, and train them in a specific area and have them grow up together so they can, sustain themselves. We need farmers, we need roofers, we need carpenters, we need electricians, we need auto mechanics. We need to learn. We need to know how to defend ourselves once we get this rolling. That's going to be a big aspect of it. And one thing a partner of mine wrote in a book called "We Will Shoot Back." His name is
Emotion.
Go on to Mississippi, and how the brothers would be in the woods, kind of defending the marchers against the Klan and whatnot like that. And during their boycotts, they had a group called the Spirit. And when they were boycotting and the people were still going to the white stores, the Spirit would meet you at your house late at night and go upside your head to get you to stop from doing what you're doing. And we need to, like Dr. Clark said, until you can look in that mirror and love what's looking back at you, we got a long way to go. And also like to make a comment about you were talking about the redlining with the loans and all of that. I don't mean to be bragging, but I own several pieces of property, right? And no one will give me a refi loan. No one. They always talk about credit to day ratio, which is bullcrap. And a couple of years ago, I was going to reinvest in another motorhome. I had one before, and me and one of my ball players, we were gonna go in together. Went to the credit union. They denied me. It wasn't but $20,000, and I just paid off my daughter's car, which was $20,000. They wouldn't lend it to me, and so my buddy went to his credit union trying to do the same thing. And he told the loan lady, which was a sister, he said, a friend of mine told me that you guys just ain't lending no money to black people. She kind of fingered him over and whispered to him. She said, I think your friend is right. So, we know that these things go on and they ain't never going to change them. I don't care how we vote and all this and that. We need to get into a hefty self-reliant situation. We spend what? How many trillions of dollars a year in America alone? And then,
13.7 trillion is what we're supposed to be spending.
Man, come on. And if we were IA had during the Garvey movement, we can employ people. That thing on Saturday, every Saturday. Now, what if we had a bunch of kids up there on that Saturday and just drilling them and teaching them about these things that we're talking about? Because they're the ones gonna have to do it. We too old and broke down, and we rounding third base, getting ready to come to home plate as far as our lives go. And we need to get these youngsters into it. That's the key, so they can build from there and go on from there and maybe do something, well after we're gone. But they ain't gonna never give us nothing. We can talk about reparations and all that. They ain't giving us a dime. I've been saying that forever. But what they need to do is eliminate us from paying taxes, income taxes, and we can from that. But if everybody would just weekly not buy that bottle of liquor, not buy that bag of weed, pool that money together, these churches could do it. They could be very instrumental, but the one of the main holdbacks that I think they have is is what they practicing. The doggone religion that they teaching was given by the white boy. Islam too. I ain't leaving none of them out. Our people was practicing something else. But that religion kind of key, and I know some great things have been done by religious people and whatnot, but in your mind, they got our minds. Because when something can't be solved, well, Jesus will do it or Allah will do it and all this. We need to do it. And I'm through for this evening. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I always ascribe to God in the person. That's what I ascribe to, but that's just me. Professor Rahh,
Yes. Can you hear me?
very clear.
I want to say again, honor to Larry and see Dr. Charles and everybody on the panel. Appreciate what's been said, if I understand correctly. I see things. Is there racism still? Yes. Has there been racism since we've encountered white people of the third kind, where we actually met and talked since? Yeah. Is there prejudice? Is there genocide? Is there famine? Is there all those things going around the globe? But at the same time, we are a lot further than where we used to be. For some of us, not all of us. The bigger, the number one graduate institutions that graduate the majority of black people are black colleges. And they were independent, even though white philanthropists are on the boards and 50% of the faculty and some of them are white. But they graduate a lot of black people. Howard, I think they graduated 250 people or something like that, 2,000 or something. It's a challenge to get some of our people to do better. We've always had organizations and individuals that talked about self-determination and self-reliance. Go all the way back to the Free Man Bureau with Frederick Douglass. We tried to, we've had national black banks and small independent savings and loans in various communities. Some are still in existence. We used to have 10 black hospitals. Now we only have one. Yeah, all of that happens when you're struggling in the dynamics that we're struggling. But we still are making progress. In the anti-poverty movement, when they started poverty development, many African Americans got jobs at major companies that had contracts with the federal government. And the federal government paid a portion of the salary, and the company did. They kept some brothers and they let some go, and sisters. We've had OIC, Office of Industrial Development, something like that, with Reverend Sullivan.
Yeah.
You got a lot of organizations that work to get black people jobs in various areas. Economically, there's no question that there's a lot of people that couldn't get loans, and if they got loans, they had high interest, and they mostly were probably be in many in black communities. But you have black people living in white communities. They call it integrated communities. Some of your most prominent black people that talk black stuff live in integrated communities. We always talk about white flight, but there's a lot of black flight. People, brothers and sisters move out because they don't like Mexicans, or they get a better deal, more property in the Inland Empire, and they think they can get a better deal here and there, and they move out. You got hustlers. I mean, hey, you got some hustlers doing real good. You know, they supplement their income by dealing drugs or running counterfeit games or accident games and things of this nature. We had a magazine called the Black Enterprise. You list the top 100 industries. One brother operated and had a franchise of Fedco when Fedco Market was there. We didn't even know that much about it. I'm just saying that there are Black people like you gentlemen here that have progressed from people that couldn't get an education, couldn't get a profession, to those that have. Our struggle taught at Compton Community College. There's financial aid there. In the heart of Compton, walking distance for many brothers and sisters, but they don't want to come to school. The ones that do come to school do good, but there's a lot of reasons they don't come. Drugs, they just don't want to do the work. They need money right now. They ain't got time to go to school. But the opportunities are there because we open up doors through struggle. And so the solution, as Attorney Fields was saying, is to keep on struggling. Not to survive, though, to develop. The continent of Africa, as long as it's colonized by Europeans and Chinese and British and everybody else that's over there, it's hard to get continental unity. That's Diop talked about. One monetary system, a military, and all of that. Well, we're working toward it. Gaddafi was trying to get it. We may not see it in our generation, but the struggle continues to move forward. And I want to applaud the young people that try to make the best of their lives and live a strong life. Some had to change their lives. They were on the wrong track, and they doing real good. You got Black brothers that I know that went into the LAPD department and got to be commanders and captains and sergeants. You know, I mean, I understand that it looks real bleak in Baltimore and certain parts of Washington, D.C., and as Haki would say, corners were not built for black men to hang out on. But, you know, there's a lot of reasons for it. And you know, you got there's a feminization of the black male, as Dr. Staples, Robert Staples would talk about. Where'd the masculinity go? You know, you got Black people wearing pigtails, double earrings, and jewelry like a girl. I mean, you got that going on, you know, and necklaces and shit. You know, and it make you look like, hey, we ain't going no damn where. We ain't about to win nothing with this crew. But there are brothers like yourselves that are teaching, preaching, being a part of organizations, supporting organizations, mentoring, not just your children, but others. And I'm willing to bet those of you that have children that's on here, you made sure that your children, for the most part, if not all of them, some of them, it depends on how many you got, we're going to be successful in at least sustaining themselves. But my point is that we have a working class. We don't have a middle class. Because in order to have the middle class, you have to have a bottom and a top. and the top is what boosts the middle. We have a working class that have middle class characteristics, but as y'all said, white folks are the ones paying them salaries. Until we get black people paying people them salaries, like Motown and Johnson and Johnson, and I'm just optimistic. I gotta be optimistic. I gotta look for brothers and sisters, work with those that's trying to do stuff, help those that aren't, and try to push them to do better. But we have come a long way, brother. In many ways.
There is absolutely no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Like I stated earlier, we had a 50% poverty rate in the 1960s. That's been reduced to 17%. In the face of just object racism. And when there is, any gain that we make is seen as an opposition move by the status quo. So no, that has to be assessed, and that is one reason for Black History Month. Black History Month is to directly look at what we did in the prior year, what we need to do now, and where we expect to be going forward. So, that is an astute observation, and by no means should we have anything but praise for our ancestors. There's absolutely nothing that suggests that we're not from the best stock that ever walked the face of the earth, let alone America.
And I agree with you. That's why I'm optimistic. But it's a struggle, but we've been struggling. Not for ourselves sometimes, but for the next generation. And it's going to be, it takes a lot of work and commitment, sacrifice, and investment, time and energy in your children. But you got young women and young men. I think Dr. I can't think of it. He talked about the pseudo man child, where there's certain women treating their young men in their family like that's their husband, doing everything for them. And we got a lot of training and work to do, but there are people out there trying to do it. 100 Black men, they mentor all the time. You have the African American Culture Center, mentor, rites of passage. And you have a lot of philanthropic groups, those sororities and fraternities that are trying to help and teach people. But as Rashaki and all of us say, many people think that white ice is colder and white sugar is sweeter. And sometimes we get caught up into that. But there's a lot of people that have a Marcus Garvey mentality, a Malcolm X mentality of self-determination and developing that. Nation of Islam always push that. But in the mega churches, some of them are doing some good work. Reverend Wright in Chicago. You had Reverend Brian in Atlanta. I forget his name. Yeah, him. And that's a Reverend Barber. They're active and they criticize and they push it. But you have other churches that just want money. And they're not really doing what they should do. But I wouldn't throw all of them out, because some of them are doing some good things. And we got to be prepared as a people for war. You may not, like as Dr. Charles many of our leaders would say, you may not be at war, but you're definitely in a war. And you got to prepare yourself mentally and discipline-wise and get your children to see it that way, to protect yourself and your family. Because they were talking about them building all these prisons for the detention centers for these deportations. They say, well, once they run out of the Mexicans and they don't have them detention centers filled, they got to fill them with somebody. And then they may have to come after, they already tried to go after the Haitians and the court stopped them. And they went after the Somalians and the people stopped them. So it's a struggle, man. I mean, we're in struggle. We're in war. We have war statistics we're talking about, Attorney Field. Our morbidity rate and our mortality rate is high. But we are living longer than our parents. Some of us. So it's a struggle. It's a beautiful struggle. I love it.
No question.
Hey,
No question.
thanks, Professor Rahh. Attorney Fields, we have 2 questions before we get out of here.
Okay.
Are you a nationalist?
I advocate for if in fact the nationalist advocates for the rights and the success of Black people, call me a nationalist.
Okay.
Pan-Africanist is probably a better term. I'm clearly a Pan-Africanist, but I am, I advocate for the rights, the protection, and the prosperity of all Black people, not at the expense of anyone else, but for Black people.
And then,
yep,
are we talking about nationhood? Well,
I mean, a nation within this nation.
Absolutely.
Or a nation apart, aside from it.
Well, it needs to be, that is a very interesting question. So talking about succession, I think is a little different. It is, and I'm not sure if that could be done, but we are already considered a nation of our own because Black folks throughout this nation are treated like a third world country. Everywhere we go. I mean, we are here. The vast majority of Black people are here for subservience. That's it. That's it. And they treat us like a third world country. So we need to galvanize our efforts for the uplift and betterment, the economic feasibility, the safety, the education, the healthcare, the mental welfare of all of us. That we need to coalesce and put our arms around ourselves in that regard. So whatever that looks like, it is. But geographically, could we do that? I mean, theoretically, yeah, it's a big. I mean, that is it's a big push. Why wouldn't we? There is strong documentation that it would be in our best interest for the vast majority of us to move back to the South, get our own representatives, have senators in several different states to advocate our interests. But it is clear that this integrationist, political standpoint, a political attempt is just not working for us. It's not. It's leaving disenfranchised all about.
One more thing, and then we got to go. One more thing. Can you say that other ethnic groups have their own nation within this nation?
Oh, certainly. You got Chinatown everywhere you go.
Okay.
Where can't you go and find a Chinatown? My hometown of University City, St. Louis, has more Chinese businesses in a mile square block than there are Black businesses in that town.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Koreatown today, near downtown Los Angeles. And it says it, Koreatown. But you ain't got no Africa town.
So what happens if you try and set up a business in Koreatown? A Black business?
Man, I have no idea. I'm not even interested in trying to do that.
I'm just asking.
It's
not going to happen.
I would say that you wouldn't be successful.
You're not going to be
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, we do not enforce that on our own. We don't. We allow anybody to come set up shop and take our corners that wants
Yeah.
to do legitimate business. There's absolutely no reason for us not to, just like Brother Ahi said, for us not to have every service station, every heat and electrical place, every corner store, bodega in our neighborhoods. No reason whatsoever. But what happened? We, and I'm going to borrow Amos Wilson again. We went to school and got dumb. The more business degrees we get, the less businesses we put in our own community. Nobody said you got to stay. You have to stay above the bodega that you own. Nobody said you got to live above it. But I mean,
It's yeah, people are turned out because of the glitz and the glitter that they think they get when
on
they,
corporate America,
it's just, it's so,
chasing validation, and it has worked out for some. It's worked out very well for some. They retired early, they got stock options, did extremely well. That's fine. But what about the masses?
what are you doing for the fellow man? The fellow man that you came from. Yeah.
But remember, most of Koreatown, Chinatown, they practicing their culture.
Of course.
You go there, they
Yeah.
go there.
And what is our culture? Consumption.
Wait a minute.
It's
Well,
consumption. We,
yeah,
we are,
we,
E. Franklin Frazier is correct. We continue to practice conspicuous consumption more than we should. And two things you can't do. You can't borrow your money out of debt, and you certainly cannot consume your way to power.
I'm just saying this. Everything you say is correct. But our efforts were historical efforts. Of black people trying to open up towns. There was Soul Town. There was Allensworth. I mean, there was an effort. They don't attack the Chinese and the Koreans like they attack us and destroy the businesses on things of this nature. Korean banks give 100% to many of the people. Those Japanese banks, they work with their people and their culture. I'm just saying that they don't face the opposition we face.
Yeah.
I mean, these people make sure that they use economic warfare as a part of the war.
Oh, yeah.
In South Africa, they was paying the people 50 cents a day for working. They said that if we gave them more money, they'd get power and they may start buying guns. If we ever got economically together, they know that we can we can put up a battle against them. So they make sure. That's what you was talking about, redlining. You don't hear no Chinese talking about I'm redlining or anything like that. It's black people they redline for the most part, and some of them redline against everybody. They're setting up white towns now up north in different areas. They already got all white towns, but they're setting up cities and towns where you have to be a white Anglo-Saxon to live there. I mean, these people are sick people. They're sick people, man.
Yeah.
And we keep saying that we sick, but they're the ones that cause our sickness. But these are some sick thinking people, man. Everybody wants to just live. You got more interracial marriages now than never before in history. More. And I ain't talking about just brothers marrying white girls. They marrying Latinos, marrying other men. I mean, it's wild out there, brother. It is deep.
Yeah. Well, let's conclude. And And next week on the show, we have a guy. Our guest is going to be Mr. Edward Williams. He spent significant time with Neely Fuller Jr. and Francis Cress Welsing, personal time with them. So I'm real eager to see what this brother's going to. The topic is how to support and defend the United States Constitution for victims of racism, white supremacy. So that's interesting in itself. And I want to hear this brother because I spent years listening to Neely Fuller. I'm talking about days and days. So very interesting for me next week. And hopefully you all show up again to see this gentleman. And Brother Muko got him for us. So that'll be a good thing for me. That'll be a treat for me, especially. Professor Rahh, do we have a guest?
Not yet, but I'll call you in the morning.
Okay, well, I appreciate you, Brother Larry, for coming on and bringing this topic up. And I want to thank everybody else for showing up and showing out like we do. Excellent evening. So until we do this again, each one teach one in Conscious Corner, we're going to keep rolling and victory is ours.
Oh, yes, indeed. Thanks again for having me.
All right, appreciate y'all.
Adios.